What's up everyone, I'm Twisted. Yesterday we got the reveal of every single card that is going to be released in the next expansion of Legends of Runeterra, as well as their artworks and flavors, and as usual, that's what I'll be checking out today. I've organized them into sections, so first we'll be taking a look at Lux's cards, 10 Vexes, 10 Lillias, and then the variety cards. And at the end, we'll speculate on what we might see later this year for Legends of Runeterra, so if you wanna skip to any of those sections, feel free to do so. Alright, we are starting out with Lux Illuminated. Keep in mind that the main theme of this set are dreams, so a lot of these cards, their artworks and flavors, will not represent stuff that's actually happened or is happening, but, well, dreams. And Lux's cards are a good example. Light swirled and arced around Luxana as the city folk looked on in wonder. Here, she was Demacia's Lady of Light, an upstanding young crown guard and a talented mage. Here, Demacia was everything she had always wanted it to be. Emphasis on always wanted, right? This is Lux's dream. Also interesting that she's Demacia's Lady of Light, when Lux's title in League is Lady of Luminosity. I think Lady of Light is more fitting. Moving on to her artwork, there are a couple things I want to mention. First, we have here one of the down speakers. We also have this person here, which seems to have 4 arms. We have some tentacles here, and as well as these spooky silhouettes. Again, this is all a dream, and I think these weird elements are here to emphasize that, right? Even the whole composition of the artwork is very dreamy, very surreal, right? Alright, now we have her level 2. I am Luxana, Lady of Light, and I am not afraid. You may try to twist my Demacia into nightmare and drown it in darkness, but there is no shadow I cannot outshine. Again, we got another reference here that this is in fact a dream, and we can see here Lux surrounded by these shadowy hands trying to reach her. We don't really get a clear explanation as to what these hands represent or what they are. But I think one of the cards later on showcases them better, and there's a couple things I want to mention about them, so I'll do that when we get to that. But besides that, there isn't much to mention here. This is just Lux overcoming her fear, overcoming her nightmare. And now we have here Lux's spell, or Radiance is Unbound, Lux Illuminated. As I've mentioned in another video, this design seems to be a combination between the item Seraph's Embrace and just Demacia's iconography of wings and the silver wings, right? This really looks like a silver wing face right here. We don't really know if this stuff actually exists or if this is just all in Lux's dream. Now we have Rising Light, Enshrined in Light, Lux Illuminated. Not much to say here. Again, the wings are very iconic in Demacia, which obviously are based on the wings of the Protectors, Morgana and Kayle. And now we have the Lumino Sprite. Come on, Mr. Sprite, let's burn away these creepy shadows. Dreamlight Alina. Dreamlight Alina is a character we'll see in a bit, and this sprite is actually quite interesting. I will mention it again when we get to Lillia's cards. But besides that, we see here Lux fighting against the hands in her nightmare, and this lamp that she's holding as the face of what I assume is a silver wing, but it kinda looks like a howl as well. And now we have the Aberrant Mage Seeker, Lady Crownguard. The Mage Seeker materialized out of the shadows, extending a hand toward her. His enchanting smile seemed too wide for his half-obscured face. Why don't you follow me? I think this is a materialization of Lux's fear of the Mage Seekers and what they do to mages, and the fact that she could very well either end up incarcerated or end up having to join the Mage Seekers and work for them, like what happened to Silas, right? Because that's how it works in Demacia. You are either locked up or you are a noble or someone with power, and you can get away with being a mage as long as you join the Mage Seekers. Yeah, something interesting in his design. First, it's the obscured face, right? The Mage Seekers are known for their masks, and in this case it seems like the mask is almost like growing out of him, obscuring more than it should. We also see here a twisted version of the Mage Seeker's emblem or symbol, the thing that they use, and behind him there's this painting of Lux, which is very reminiscent of the painting we see of Tiana in her card and in Eldred's card. which again I think links with the idea of Lux wanting to be a hero of Demacia. And now we have Dreamlight Alina, the character that was mentioned in the Luminous Sprite card. When I was your age, I was so afraid of this light. I didn't have anyone to tell me that my magic was a gift, that it was given to me for a reason. But you have me to tell you now, so don't be afraid, Alina. Let it shine. Lux Illuminated. So here we have Alina, which seems to be another light mage in Demacia, maybe even part of Lux's family, who knows. And you can see here that she is creating this shield around her, which is very reminiscent of Lux's shield. And I'm not entirely sure where this takes place. I don't think this is Alina's own dream, as we see the shadowy hands from Lux's nightmare here. I think this is Lux dreaming about helping other mages, right? Maybe Alina doesn't even exist, it's just a character that her mind created for her in this dream. And here we have the Light of Demacia, and this card right here really encapsulates Lux's dream, right? She wants to be seen as a hero of Demacia, someone who is loved and praised by all Demacians and protects them. The cheers of the crowd swell her as her radiance washed over their upturned faces. She had only ever sought to uplift and support her people, and they supported her in turn, voices rising in a chant of adoration. Luxana, Luxana, Luxana. A bit egotistical, I think. Regardless, behind her we have the altar to unity, and besides that I don't really see anything worth mentioning. Let me know if I missed anything here. And since the Light of Demacia is a story, we have a couple cards that are the activated spells or skills of that story landmark. These reuse the same artworks, so I'll quickly just read to the flavor. I will protect you, Lux Illuminated. Look around you. This is the might of Demacia, Lux Illuminated. Together, with hearts incandescent, Lux Illuminated. Alright, and now we have the Patricide Hall. The cheers of the crowd faded as she entered the hall. The statues looked on in silence. Darkness awaited, but she could not turn back. Who else could prevent Demacia's descent into nightmare? Yeah, these flavors really remind me of the story where Lux had to fight off Nocturne, and Nocturne was tormenting a town and inflicting the residents with nightmares, collectively. And by the end of the story, he's also creating these shadowy, nightmarish beings that Garen and a couple of other soldiers have to fight. This is really reminding me of that. Here we see a statue of Tiana, and I assume this statue back here is of Garen. And here we have a better look of all these nightmarish hands that are trying to reach out toward Lux. We don't really know what they represent, but I think they are supposed to be the hands of all the incarcerated mages, right? All the ones that were imprisoned by the Mage Seekers. They are supposed to represent her fear of becoming one of them, right? Of being locked away as well, of succumbing to this dark part of the kingdom that she loves. I think that's what they are supposed to represent. There's also these two people right here, which I'm not sure if this is supposed to represent Lux herself or someone else. And I also don't know if this location is also a reference to a specific location, or if this is just part of her dream. Is a little shade like that supposed to frighten me? Lux Illuminated. I don't remember that statue of Aunt Tiana, Lux Illuminated, confirming that this is indeed Tiana. Come out and face me, or I will burn away the shadows you cower in, Lux Illuminated. And yeah, this card uses capture, it uses suppression, right, which are mechanics associated with the Mage Seekers. So I think it's more than obvious that Lux's fears and nightmares are related to the mage situation in Demacia. I think that's really obvious. But it's cool that they tied that with the actual gameplay effects of the cards. It's very thematic. And finally, to finish off Lux's cards, we have Jarrow Lightfeather. A young man in a masquerade mask manifested before her with a flourish of rose petals and luminescent creatures. The name's Lightfeather. Jarrow Lightfeather, he said. I was told you might be in need of some assistance, my lady. And yeah, this is obviously Ezreal. In case you didn't know, Jarrow Lightfeather is Ezreal's alter ego in Demacia, or so he says. And the flavor makes it seem that this is still part of Lux's dream, which makes me wonder if she has met Jarrow Lightfeather at some point, or if this is some weird dream crossover thing going on, right? Because it does say that he manifested in front of her, but so did the Mage Seeker, I believe. And here we can see some sprites, which we'll also see again when we get to Lillia's cards. And here we have another Jero Lightfeather card. Relax, ladies. There's enough of me to go around. Jero Lightfeather. And I'm pretty sure that this design is a reference to Tuxedo Mask from Sailor Moon. Alright, and now we are moving on to Vex's cards, but instead of starting with Vex herself, I wanna start with Ale, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. V, wait, I have something for you. It's an invitation to your very own birthday party, and your gift, a little early, I couldn't wait. Aren't you excited? We need to talk about what you wear, and the cake, and... V? So yeah, this is the start of the story of Vex's cards. This character right here inviting Vex to her own birthday party. And this is the gift that she's giving Vex, and we'll actually see it again in a bit. So now Vex herself, stupid pink girl. I already told her I hate parties, especially when there's cake. Gross. Just wake me up when she goes away. So the pink girl is obviously Ale, which we just saw. Here we can see Shadow ripping the birthday invitation that she got for her own party. And you might realize that she says, wake me up when she goes away, which is obviously going to transition into Vex's level up animation where she falls asleep and then wakes up, quote unquote, inside her dream. Speaking of which, well, this is awful, and not in a good way. And we can see here that Vex's dream, or Vex's nightmare, is very colorful, and it's the birthday party that she does not want to go to. And you can see here that what I assume are Timu's shrooms have eyes, and you can see here this person is dressing like the gift that she got, the plushie. We can see here the mayor, we'll be checking his card in a bit, and a couple of other characters in the background. I'm not entirely sure if these are references to some of the Yordles we've seen, or if they are just random NPCs. For example, here I'm pretty sure this is Timu, but this one I'm not entirely sure if this is Nar or not. This one here kinda looks like Tristana. This character right here looks like a pink version of Shadow for some reason. They also show up in another card. Again, this is supposed to be very surreal because it's Vex's nightmare. And here we have Vex's glare. Congratulations, I hate you. Vex. Shadow? Yeah, show them, Shadow. No presents, no confetti, and especially no party hats. Vex. So yeah, here we see some of the characters that were in Vex's level 2, like the person wearing the plushy mascot suit, the character who looks like a pink version of Shadow, as well as a couple Yordles, and the mushrooms with a face. And now we have the Beefcake Mayor, which was also in Vex's level 2 artwork, and this is obviously Vex's nightmare version of the Bundle City Mayor. Time slowed down as the weirdly muscular mayor burst out of the impossible tall cake. A very happy birthday, the mayor said with a flex from Bandel's best and buffest elected official. Out of all our dreams, Vex hated this one the most. Right, this is really funny. This Yordle right here is based on the Yordles that are next to the mayor in his own card. And just like Lux had a card with a sprite, Vex also does have a card with a sprite. This is Gloom Sprites. Dreams have a funny way of changing the sprites. This one seems to be, oh, is that cake? Lillia. And this is a code from Lillia. When we get to Lillia's cards, this will all make a little bit more sense. But we can see here one of the dream sprites, or I should say a swarm of dream sprites attacking Cake, and you can see the Yordles running away. Nothing major, this is all happening in Vex's nightmare. Speaking of nightmare, we have the grotesque gift, and this is a twisted, gigantic version of the gift that Vex was given by Halai. Didn't end up being such a bad gift after all, Vex. But yeah, there's nothing that major to point out here, besides the fact that this looks really awesome. But yeah, this is still in Vex's dream, so nothing here is actually real. Monstrous Eruption. Worst gift ever. Vex. Again, another reference to the gift. And here we have Uncle Milty, which is Vex's uncle. Though he is certainly very different from his gloomy niece, Uncle Milty always does his best to connect with her, especially if it's through a spooky story told by candlelight. Again, this is Vex's uncle, there's nothing major to comment on here, and now we have Uncle Milty again in Existential Dread. What's the point of anything ever, Vex? The family reunion. Absence doesn't make this heart grow any fonder, but at least family dinners are quiet around here, just the way Vex likes it. And this is probably the most interesting card in Vex's package. The core of Vex's character is that she is this misunderstood teenager that can't seem to find anyone who relates to her or that empathizes with the way that she sees the world, right? And she's very depressed because Yordles can't die and she thinks that dying is what gives life meaning, and so she doesn't have the best relationship with her parents, even though her parents do love her unconditionally. Even when she returned from the Shadow Isles looking all spooky like this, they still love her regardless, but she still can't connect with them. So I think that these trees aren't alive. I think this is something that she made for herself, and you can see here that she's swinging on them, and she doesn't seem too happy. But if you look here at Shadow, and Shadow is basically this reflection of Vex, Shadow is much more expressive and it actually shows what Vex is feeling and thinking. And you can see that here it is a bit sad, right? This is a sad moment. Just goes to show that Vex does want to connect with her family, she probably just doesn't know how. And this is a story, so we got a couple skills. No, I don't want to swing on your branches. I'm not a kid anymore, Vex. Yeah, she doesn't want to swing, but she's the one holding on to the branches and swinging. And here we have Mr. Vex. You guys better not go to that stupid party. You stay rooted right here, Vex. Again, I think this really gives on the idea that these aren't spirit trees or trees that actually move. These are just trees that she carved. And here we have Miss Vex. It's not a phase, Mom. Vex. And so we ended Lux's cards with Jero Lightfeather. I think it's only fitting that we end Vex's with Grim, Dark Romantic, Tortured Poet, and Connoisseur of all things philosophical. Grim isn't afraid of a little gloom and doom. The subject of his affection is known to be a touch prickly, but that only makes her all the more lovable in his eyes. So yeah, this is someone who's romantically interested in Vex. Gloom and Doom, I believe it's the name of Vex's passive, but yeah, we see here Grim trying to give a bouquet of roses to Vex, and besides that, I don't think there's much more to mention here, because he shows up again in The Beautiful Disaster. He climbed the steps of the stage, poem clutched in hand. He hadn't put up any posters advertising his performance, because he already had the only audience he wanted, which I assume is Vex, and Shadow's face right here shows everything that she's thinking, right? You can feel the cringe emanating out of this scene. Yeah, here we have a poster with, I think it's the face that shows up on Vex's visual effects. I don't think this takes place in Vex's nightmare. I think this is actually happening, unfortunately for her. O valiant sufferer, kindred of my spirit, beloved of my soul, long I waited this night, Grim, searching for the courage, the strength to confess, your shadow is my sunlight, your gloom my spirit, my withered heart holds affection for you alone. No, and I almost forgot Grim's skill. A rose is only beautiful in its impermanence. Grim. And finally, we have Lillia. At the heart of the garden of forgetting, the dewdrop harvest grows near. Though these dewdrops are lovingly tended by Lillia and the garden's other caretakers, a strange corruption can now be seen within them, and the dreams they show turning haunted and dark. Alright, a little bit of backstory here. In Ionia, there used to be this tree called Godwillow, which was felled by Ivern the Cruel, and somehow Ivern and the tree merged together to turn Ivern in what he is today. But one of the seedlings from this tree fell onto the Garden of Forgetting, which you might know from Ari's story. That's the garden where she tried to find a way to forget about her husband that she killed. But so this seedling grew into the Dreaming Tree, which is a tree where the dreams of everyone in the world blossom, as what I assume are these dewdrops. And one of these dreams was actually the tree's own dream, and that dream fell onto the ground and became Lillia. And this probably all sounds very confusing, but just understand that this is Ionia and stuff like this is normal there. But yeah, now Lillia tries to take care of the dreams of the Dreaming Tree, which is what we are seeing here. And I assume that Lillia is looking into Lux's dream. And we can see around her a couple of dream sprites. And here we have Lillia's level 2, which flavor is a continuation of her level 1, as if a twisted corruption had taken root within them, threatening to leave dreamers stranded in her own dangerous nightmares. Again, this sounds really like something that Nocturne would do. Nocturne is really associated with nightmares, and I've seen a lot of people speculating that Nocturne 2.0 might be coming out this year. I'm not entirely convinced that we are getting another 2.0 champion in general, because of the shift to PvE and because we are not really certain how the next expansions are even going to play out. We know that there's still more content on the way, we just don't really know how that content is going to be released. And another thing here is that she's fighting off against these crows, ravens, dark birds, right? And that's clearly more associated with Fiddle. However, Fiddle isn't really known for nightmares, but I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Fiddle is one of the most powerful demons in Runeterra, and demons are spirits, and the spirit realm is really connected to dreams, so I wouldn't put it past the realm of possibility that this is actually teasing Fiddle, but I'll mention more about that at the end of the video. Something else that I did forget to mention is that Lillia now has braids. Dream-laden bow. I've caught a dream of you, and you, all of you, Lillia. This is one of her abilities in League, and here we have her spell, Blooming Bud. Dreams are a blooming, Lillia. Also, something that I just realized is that the bud on her head is closed in her level 1, but blossoming in her level 2, right? That's cool. That's a cool detail. I've mentioned Lillia's braids, and here we can see a petal pixie actually doing them. Our Lillia's hair looks a mess. Go and fix it for us, won't you? Remember, the first strand is for wishes, the second for dreams, and the last one for everything that's not as it seems. Sprite Mother. That's a character that we'll see in a bit. I don't believe we've ever seen any being like this before. This seems to be some kind of fairy or spirit. And speaking of which, we also have some dream sprites behind them. And since I keep mentioning sprites, here is Sprite Dance. Dreams of the heart are one drowse from reality. Lillia. And here we can see the dream sprites, or the spirits that can enter people's dreams. And here we have the spritelings on card. Spritelings are marvelous creatures. Giving enough time, the right dreamer, their potential is simply limitless. Sprite Mother. Again, these are spirits that enter people's dreams. And here we can see the Sprite Mother, which we'll check out right now. Sprite Mother. Sprites are spirited, fickle, and not always good listeners. To ensure each one reaches its dreamer, Sprite Mother looks after them with a steady hand and no small amount of scolding. I'm not entirely sure what the Sprite Mother is. I assume she's probably some kind of Vastaya or spirit that lives in the Garden of Forgetting. But here we can see the sprites, and this one is entering a dream. And here we have the 3 sprites. Go on, little sprites, show your dreamer the way. And as you can see, once again these are sprites that are entering dreams, and you can see that this right here looks exactly like the Lumino sprite from Lux's dream, and this one somewhat resembles the Gloom sprites from Vex's dream, which probably means that these dreams right here are from Vex and Lux. And basically here we can see what the flavor was referring to when it said that their potential was limitless, right? They adapt and transform and change based on the dream that they are entering. And here we have Bundle Bright. Doesn't everybody dream about being a hero? Poppy. This one is a bit random. This is the skill of the 3 sprites, but the artwork doesn't really look anything like it. In fact, this seems to be some kind of sprites entering a Bandle City portal, and there's also a reference to Poppy, which supports that idea. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's happening here. Maybe these are just sprites entering Poppy's dream. Who knows? And here we have Ophelia's Gardener. And when I first saw this card, I thought Ophelis was an actual word, an adjective, but turns out that Ophelis is actually the name of one of the Vastayan tribes that we've known for a while, but we just haven't seen what they look like. And Eloard is here showcasing what they look like for the first time, and this is actually the second time this happens, because the Otrani were also a Vastayan tribe that we knew about that was shown for the first time in Soraka's cards. To care for the Dreaming Tree and surrounding garden is a high honor, but one that requires sacrifice. In a ritual of respect and appreciation, the garden's caretakers offer up their own memories, losing a part of themselves every night. Now this is quite interesting. Again, the Garden of Forgetting is where this is all taking place, and is also where Ari went to try to forget about her own bad memories. But yeah, here we have the first ever Ophelis that we've seen, as well as some dream sprites. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. Looks a bit weird. And here in the background, these mountains might seem familiar. That's because the Garden of Forgetting is located in Navori. Go on, little sprite. Soar, Ophelis Gardener. The Dewdrop Harvest. Each of Mother's Tree's dewdrops gives a glimpse into a dream happening somewhere in Runeterra, and each drop must be carefully harvested, nurtured, and protected. We see here the Ophelis Gardener, we see here Lillia, a bunch of sprites, and we see the dewdrops, which are the dreams of, as the flavor says, the people living in Runeterra. The Heart of the Tree. Dream sprites are one of the garden's more plentiful inhabitants. Varied in shape, size, and temperament, many of them will go on to enter dewdrops, guiding their dreamers toward their deepest wishes. Nothing new here, but I believe this should be the Dreaming Tree, which is pretty cool. And well, we see the Ophelis Gardener and a lot of dream sprites. Look, little sprite, I even brought you a clover chew. Ophelis Gardener. Close your eyes to see the most wondrous of things. Lillia. Oh, the sprites never set out alone. Ophelis Caretaker. All every plant needs is some good, fresh soil. Ophelis Caretaker. The sprites become exactly what their dreamer needs. Closure, peace, love. They can help you find it. Ophelis Caretaker. Well, this explains why Vex's sprite became a cake-eating monster and why Lux's sprite became a lantern. And here we have the Root-Bound Path. The Garden of Forgetting is home to a strange assortment of creatures, both large and small, some with more sentience than they would like to have. Here we have a cute little root spirit creature, and as well as a sleepy lizard. Root Canopy. Everything dies, you know, even dreams, especially dreams. Hey, should we go for a walk, Mr. Root? Mr. Root is the root creature character that we saw. Speaking of which, smile through the pain, Mr. Root. And I guess I should have just started with this. This is Mr. Root. Whoa, one day all of this beauty will be dead. And so will we. I hope I'm first. Hehe. Well, I guess that explains why the other flavor says that some creatures have more sentient than they would like to. And finally, the last of Lillia's cards. Daydreams, night dreams, mid-morning dreams. The Dreaming Tree has branches with paths to them all. I believe this is referencing one of Lillia's quotes in League. Here we can see the Dreaming Tree. We can see the sleepy lizards. And we can actually also see this frog right here, which is very reminiscent of the frog that we saw in Lillia's first teaser, as well as the frogs that are in the Nexus Blitz map, which obviously came out around the same time as Lillia herself. Alright, and now let's take a look at the variety cards. And a lot of things that they have in common are that they are either introducing a mechanic to a region, or they are able to summon a unit from another region, which is really interesting. So for example here we have the Empire Reconstructor, which introduces Sharp Sight to Shurima. The rise of the Emperor has inspired hope across Shurima. Determined to see Azir's vision fulfilled, this mage calls herself the Empire's Reconstructor and travels the desert for the purpose of restoring buried ruins to their former splendor. Interesting. This is one of the many people in Shurima apparently who can control sand magic like Azir. And this one is actually wearing armor that resembles Azir himself. Even her feet right here, she almost looks like she has bird feet, but I believe this is all just cosmetic. There's also a goat here. And here we have Mercenary Manners. Blood for gold is always a good start to the day. Hired Gun. Hired Gun is a follower in the game. I'm not really sure if these hands are based on any specific follower. I can't really recognize them. They aren't the Hired Guns, for example. If you recognize them, please let me know down below. Glacial Fell, which is introducing Formidable into Freljord. Some trees in the Freljord can only be felled by the power of Winter Frost itself. I don't really recognize this X, so I don't think this is a reference to anything. Dragon Song Dreamer, which is a Targon follower which can summon an Ionian follower. The dragons are near. I can feel it. Even now they drift through my dreams. Interesting. Again, dreams, spirits, everything is connected. And we obviously can see here next to the character a Dragonling. Yeti Handler, which is a Noxian follower that summons a Freljordian follower. The Noxian War Machine's success is due in part to its flexibility. When challenging terrain or difficult conditions demand adaptation, the military will take advantage of even the most unlikely local resources. Yeah, that's just unfortunately how Noxus operates, right? But yeah, we can see here a captive Yeti, some birds in the background, likely tied to Swain, and a Noxian who should be the Yeti handler. And you can see that they are wielding a whip, and I don't think I have to tell you what that whip is being used on. And now we have Kerox, which is a Shadow Isles follower, which summons a Bilgewater follower. The lone horseman of a spectral ship that many seafaring folk call the Last Ferry. Kerox is said to commune with the spirits of all the sailors who perished trying to reach the Isles. Kerox is an obvious reference to Charon from Greek mythology, both in name but also the flavor and the artwork. We see here that they are a horseman and they have a ferry and they commune with spirits, and obviously this all ties to the Greek myth of Charon. Besides that, I believe we can see here one of the symbols of the Shadow Isles, or should I say of Lillia. And here we have Forgotten Artifact, which is a Demacian spell that summons a Shuriman follower. Deep in a Mageseeker vault of confiscated magical objects, a strange carving sits unlabeled, its purpose long forgotten. This artwork obviously resembles the artwork of the spell Waking Sands, which also summons a Sandstone Charger, whose helmets also look like this artifact right here. And this is another one of those cards that kinda connects Demacia and Shurima in a way. Last year we had the Defenders of the Sun Disk, as well as the General of the Dunes, which were the first elite cards in Shurima, obviously creating some synergy between Demacia and Shurima. And here we have another one. Curiously enough, both Renekton and Jarvan, which would be the champions to synergize the most with these cards, were both rotated, which makes me wonder if there's any upcoming champion that is going to take their place as this Demacian Shuriman elite challenger type character. Perhaps a new Ascendant? I would really love it to be Setaka, but I'm not sure how likely that is. And now let's check out some stories. Here we have the Iron Conquest. In the Grey Realm, tortured forms amass into a spectral army. Once the gates of the mortal realm are open, they will not be stopped. And we have a lot of characters here. We have a couple blade-pierced revenants. We got some Iron Legionnaires right here. We even got these guys in the background, which I don't believe are a card yet, but they do appear in some of Mordekaiser's cards. We have these guys right here, which are not in any card yet, I believe. I think this is the first time we're seeing them, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. And there's also this guy right here, which looks like a satellite, which I think we've also not seen yet, which means that they might come out in the future as followers. I will not rest until vengeance is mine, Blade Piercer Revenant. Soon they will all belong to me, Mordekaiser. The Emperor's Army. Azir knows Shurima as it was, is, and will be. He believes that his vision for the future is far more than a mere dream. It is a prophecy he is destined to fulfill. Interesting, I completely forgot that stories so far have been mostly dreams. Not all of them. For example, Vex's family didn't really seem like a dream, and a couple of Lillia's ones weren't also a dream. I don't think Mordekaiser's one was a dream, but this one seems to allude that it might be Azir's dream. The imagery sure looks a bit surreal, right? And really beautiful. Like, I haven't said this yet, but this set has some of the most beautiful artworks they've released yet for the game. Besides that, we have Azir here, the Sun Disk, Sand Soldiers, not much else to mention. Sun-soaked fervor. We serve the everlasting glory of Shurima, General of the Dunes. Interesting that this is the character that they are mentioning. Again, might be teasing that there's a new Ascended champion coming out later this year. Sand Strategy. See what will be. Azir. This is one of his quotes. My soldiers are numerous as the dunes in the desert. Azir. And since we're talking about Shurima, Sunborn Summoning. Sunborn are obviously the God Warriors, the Ascended. Many artifacts of ancient Sunborn warriors have been lost to time. The same cannot always be said of the God Warriors they represent. Artifacts that have been lost to time. That's interesting. An artifact based on Nasus or Renekton makes sense to be lost to time, but an artifact based on Azir only really became Ascended recently, so for the artifact to be lost to time doesn't really make much sense. And I believe this one should be based on Xerath, right? I think this is supposed to be his armor. This is also the only artifact to be correct which fits Zerath. But yeah, interesting. And these artifacts are based on champions because this is a spell that draws champions from your deck. And here we have the Candlelit Prayer. This temple to Janna has few solid walls, so as to be better in tune with its goddess's powers. Nevertheless, the many candles seem always to be lit, even when a howling storm settles over the rest of Zon. Well, this confirms the location of this temple. This isn't the sunken temple, by the way, because, well, it's not sunken, but this is where the artwork of Mariam, which we can see right here, takes place. And we can also see a statue of Janna right here. And I believe this boat is in Janna's level 1 artwork. And maybe these glasses as well? Blessed Breath. A candle cannot burn without her blessed breath to feed it. Mariam, Temple Caretaker. Disciple of the Gale. This temple is open to all who seek her wind-born grace. Mariam, Temple Caretaker. And here we have Soaring Cartographer. Altitude is the surest way to make one recognize their own insignificance. This is a very beautiful artwork, and the style is a little bit reminiscent of some of the artworks of the earlier sets. Despite this looking like an Ionian Vastaya, this is a PNZ card. Again, in-game region doesn't always match the region depicted on the artwork, though we do see some seagulls and a shore, which makes it possible that this does take place in Piltover and Zon, but I also wouldn't be surprised if this takes place in Ionia. Looking at their map, I can't really recognize anything. Do let me know if you recognize any of this. And here we have Malmutation, just one more copy, and then it will be perfect. Evil Imperfectionist. So this is a goofy card. We see here who I believe is the Evil Imperfectionist, and we see this gooey version of an Owlcat, which makes sense since the card summons 2 Owlcats, though obviously this is a not really good copy of a Owlcat. And I think this might be the first time we've seen Owlcats in Piltover and Zon. We have seen them in Bilgewater, in the Octo Adventure artwork, but in PNZ, I believe this is the first time. And I've seen some people saying that this might be a reference to Zac, which I think it's possible, but I also believe that if we are getting a PNZ champion this year, it's very likely going to be someone tied to Arcane. I think that just makes the most sense. So I don't know how likely Zac is, though I would love to see him in the game. Alright, and here we have the Poro Parade, and this is probably the card with the most Easter eggs. So first let's read the flavor. Ingvar has forged an even stronger relationship with the Poro King's subjects since her visit to his kingdom. Stampeding through the Freljord in search of adventure is one of the best ways to improve diplomatic relationships. This card, as well as all of the Poro King related cards, are just a byproduct of Ingvar's imagination, which makes them perfect for the theme of this expansion, which are dreams. And so we have Ingvar right here, and let's quickly go through all the references in this artwork. Starting off, we have a mask of an Owlcat here, as well as here, a Gelsong Swallow, Grave Companion, Yumi, Cunning Kitten, Frostcoat Cub, The Messenger, Fallen Feline or Dr. Von Yip, Trusty Ramhound, Sneaky Zibbles, Yaduski Snowdog, as well as Solaris Sunhawk, and what I believe is a Fleet Feather Tracker. Surprisingly, not many birds in LOR have a yellow beak, so I believe it's them. And there's also a couple right here, which I'm not really sure what they are referring to. Please let me know down below if you recognize any of them. And finally, we have the Dragon Prince Grinzo. Poro Captain, we gotta go even faster, Ingvar the Younger. Poro Entourage, is that a costume, Mr. Poro? Ingvar the Younger. And here we have Bring Here Thunder Song, which is the card made for the community kitchen. I am forged in the storm of the mountain, and the song of my people. Obviously a follower of Volibear. I believe this should be a symbol of Volibear or of a bear in general. And they summon the storm-carved spire. To challenge nature is foolhardy. To channel it, however, therein lies power beyond measure. Bring here Thunderstorm. And here we have a mountain that looks really similar to the Sigil of the Storm, as well as Bring Here. Ultra Soft Poro. Ho ho ho, look at that fluff, Poro Herder. Here we have the Poro Herder, as well as a lot of Poros and an Anivia Rubber Ducky. Angela spent years angling to win the fight to end all fights. Every night she dreams of a coin pile big enough to fill Bilgewater Bay. That's potato farm money, that is. Here we have Angel, in where I believe should be Jack's ship, and this is her dream of becoming rich. Nothing prettier than the glint of gold. Angel. Second Wind. Money can't buy happiness, but it sure pays for my healer. Angel. Convincing clash. Let's make it good for the fans, yeah? Angel. And here we have Eager Dedicant. What do you mean I need more training? I've been training. Look, look. And this should be the final follower of Lillia, making it finally 7 followers of Ashlash. And we've actually seen his design before in the concept art of Master Lookout. And next to him we can see Vikrash, another of Lillia's followers, as well as their ship in the background. The Smoke Scales host. This lone Otrani is dedicated to the worship and adoration of dragons, so much that they see the regal beasts in worlds, both waking and asleep. This lone Otrani is the Otrani dragon worshipper, and again we have a reference to dreams, and behind them is the face of the gentle gem dragon, and we already knew that there was a connection between the two, because in the artwork of the dragon we could see the Otrani, dragon dedicant. A dragon's fire is sometimes beauty, and sometimes fury, Otrani dragon worshipper. Smoke visions. They show themselves to me in the smoke, Otrani dragon worshipper. Veiled blessings. I will be their sanctuary, Morgana. And here we can see the Veiled Protector, as well as the butterflies that are seen in some of Morgana's cards. The arena's greatest. The arena's popularity is due in part to the fact that anyone can make a name for themselves within it. This particular fan has watched every one of Draven's matches he could. He is sure that given the same chance, he could too rise to the top. This is Draven's biggest fan, and he just defeated a captive Yeti and a thrashing snapper. Besides that, I believe we can see Draven here in the background, but I'm not quite sure. And obviously, this is just a dream, this isn't happening. Slingshot Sniper, if only Draven could see me now, Draven's biggest fan. Arena Spoils, got a rock with your name on it, Paul, Draven's biggest fan. Maybe this is actually the arena's battlecaster, not quite sure. And here we have the Blighted Battle Axe. Cowardice is costly. I'm not sure if this is referencing anything, so I don't know, maybe this is just some dark magic. In Noxus that wouldn't be surprising. And here we have the Wings Given. Old Trevor Snoozebottom always seems to find himself drifting about in some dream or another. This one, thankfully, seems quite peaceful, though strangely, everyone he comes across wants wings just like his. Again, another story landmark that depicts a dream, and here we have Trevor Snoozebottom, as well as a bunch of other followers. We have Changelings, Squirrels, a Blastcone Seedling, a Fey Sprout, a Fey Folk, another Changeling, a Mushroom Ring, and finally we have Jin, which doesn't have his own card, but is seen in multiple Bundle City cards, mostly in Tristana's package. And last but not least, we have the Steel Gale, the Blade above all, Yone Windchaser. And this is one of Yone's abilities in League, and, well, it depicts Yone himself. And I think this is a good transition into the speculation part of this video, because just like Yone, last year, Silas was also depicted in a card, despite not being released yet. And that wasn't really the first time that ever happened in LOR. For example, Zax's Blob, Twitch, Warwick, and even Jinzhou can all be seen in artworks in the game. The only difference is that in Suppression and Steel Gale, Yone and Silas are very much the focus of the card. 3 months ago, when we didn't really have that much information, I made this list, which were my predictions for 2024. And obviously after that we got the layoffs and the shift to PvE, so we don't really know how the rest of the year is going to play out in terms of releases. We know that this was the last set as we know them, so we don't really know what to expect now in terms of expansion sets releases. But something interesting here is that we got Lux 2.0, which I was expecting. We didn't get Yasuo, and we likely aren't getting him, because unlike the original Lux, which following the new rotation is still only in Eternal, with Lux Illuminated being now in Standard, the original Yasuo is now also in Standard, so I don't think it makes sense for them to release Yasuo 2.0, so this prediction right here, completely wrong. Instead we are getting Lillia, but I also predicted Vex, and we have cards that feature both Silas and Yone, and there might be some teasers for Fiddlesticks. So I might get at least 3 more predictions right. One thing that I'm definitely getting wrong, besides Yasuo, is the release order. I had actually grouped these champions into sets, but obviously that's not happening. But I did group together Yone and Fiddlesticks, and I think it would be perfect for them to come out around the same time, because Fiddlesticks is a demon and Yone's narrative is all about demons. So I think there's still some chance that we might see these 3 right here, and obviously with Arcane happening toward the end of the year, I think it's very likely that we are getting at least one champion tied to the show. We know that Mbessa is coming out in both League and Wild Rift, so I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility for her to also come out in LOR, making her the second champion to be released in all 3 games around the same time, the first one being Akshan during the Sentinels of Light event. As for the other champions, I still think that Targon is the most likely region to get an exclusive champion, but I would also love to see Shurima get a new Ascended, though I'm not really sure how likely that is. Again, we have a couple cards that are connected to the Ascended, but also Elites, and also interact with Challenger in some way, so there's room there for an exclusive Ascended champion to come out in Legends of Runeterra. I don't know if Skarner and Qiyana are still as likely as I thought before. The reason they are here is because Ishtal has been getting a lot of attention recently. We got Milieu in League of Legends, we got Nidalee's voiceover update in League, Nidalee and Niku in LOR, and then Skarner's rework, so in the background they could have also worked in either Skarner or Qiyana for Legends of Runeterra, but I'm not really sure how likely that is right now. Oh, and obviously we got the Elemental vocab last year, that just fits Qiyana too perfectly, right? But yeah, from all the new cards, Steelgate seems to be the only one really teasing a champion, though there are also cards like Maul Mutation that could be teasing Zac, and obviously the new Shurima / Demacia cards that could be teasing a new Ascended, but I think it's still very early to conclude anything. So for now, my predictions remain the same, except I don't think Skarner is that likely anymore. I think Qiyana might still have a chance. Skarner, I don't really see it. I put him here because this would somewhat line up with his release in League, and I thought that that would be a cool crossover, but I don't really see him being released in LOR this year. So, going through all the regions one by one, I don't think Battle City is getting a new champion so soon. We just got Vex. For Bilgewater, we got 2 Bilgewater champions last year. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get a new one this year. For Demacia, we got Lux 2.0. I'm not really sure if getting a 2.0 champion means we might not see another new Demacian champion. If that's the case, then we might not see Sylas, unless Sylas is a double region champion like Mordekaiser and Morgana. And obviously keep in mind that we don't know how the expansions are going to play out, so we might not even get the same amount of champions that we've been getting in the past few years. For Freljord, again, if it's not Sylas, I'm not entirely sure who it could be. These cards here are just support for the subtype archetype, and this is more of a variety card in general. So for now, I think it's anyone's guess. For Ionia, we got Lillia. We also have a card teasing Yone. Last year, we did get 2 Battle City champions and 2 Noxian champions, so 2 Ionian champions this year isn't that far-fetched to me, especially if it's Lillia and Yone. I think releasing them in the same year would make a lot of sense. They were also released almost at the same time in League, and their stories are somewhat connected. So Yone teaming up with Lillia to fight whatever is causing these nightmares would make a lot of sense. For Noxus, I don't think any of these cards are really teasing anything. I still think Mbessa is probably the most likely because of Arcane, but for now we don't have much evidence. For PNZ, again, I think it will most likely be a champion connected to Arcane somehow. I think that's what makes the most sense, though we also know that, for example, Urgot's voice actor has done some work for the game. There's also this card which could be teasing Zac, but I think it's really too early to jump onto any of those. I still think overall an Arcane related champion is more likely. For Runeterra champions, I think Fiddlesticks might finally show up in the game, again with the whole team of fear, Lillia fighting crows, Lux's dream being red, Yone being teased. I think there's a chance we might finally see Fiddle coming out, so for now I'm on that copion. For the Shadow Isles we got Vex. I don't think we are getting another Shadow Isles champion this year, and the only card so far this year not themed around Vex is one of those cards that uses a mechanic from another region, so it's hard to say if it's really teasing anything, though it would be cool if this was teasing Yorick. For Shurima there are still a lot of champions left, and if you asked me last year, I would probably say that maybe a Mumu, maybe a dual region Cassiopeia because of curses, maybe a Rengar because of ambush, but for now I think I'm staying on that exclusive Ascended Copium. I think that would be really awesome if it happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got any other Shuriman or even Void champion instead. And speaking of Void, we don't really have any more Targon champions left, so we are either getting an exclusive champion, a Void champion, or just a champion from Ishtal or something, a champion that doesn't really have a region that will end up being placed in Targon like Malphite. So yeah, these were all the cards that will be released in the next set, as well as my predictions for what we might see this year in Legends of Runeterra. If I missed anything, let me know down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.